car crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis, Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with the attorneys of Hollis, Wright.
And welcome. You are watching The Attorneys. I'm Art Franklin. So glad to have you with us. And the topic for this show is cannabis law and Alabama. What's legal, what's not, what you need to know to stay informed and also to stay protected. But before we do that, we want to tell you, as always, attorneys at Hollis Wright are standing by right now to take your calls. They're free and confidential calls. All you have to do is call 1-844-LAW-TALK. That's 1-844-LAW-TALK, and you will reach someone from Hollis Wright right now. And right now, let's go ahead and turn over to Josh Wright, managing partner at Hollis Wright. Good to see you, buddy.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
You doing good? Good week?
Good week, good times.
Great.
Good to see you.
So we're going to cover an interesting topic today, the landscape of the regulation from state to state of hemp and marijuana has changed drastically over the years. And we brought an expert on to talk a little bit about a new law in Alabama that has regulated the landscape just a bit in the production and the sale of hemp and ultimately I think will be marijuana products in Alabama most likely. And Rob Winslett from the Winslett Law Firm has joined us. So first of all, welcome. Glad to have you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I know this is the first time you've been on the show.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, tell us a little bit about first the Winslett Law Firm, and then let's talk a little bit about the topic.
Yeah, so the Winslett Law Firm is in Hoover, Alabama. We typically service Bessemer, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Central Alabama. We mostly practice criminal defense, family law, personal injury, and I like I said, I just typically the Central Alabama area.
Got it. And so, how did you get into this area? This is a unique area of the law, and I'm just assuming it relates to your criminal practice, but not 100% sure, but it's a unique area of the law for certain.
Yeah, actually, I started getting into cannabis and weed and marijuana as a practicing criminal defense attorney, but also I met someone, another attorney at the ACDLA conference who really got me interested in the distinction between the two. And then when the new bill came in, I decided there was a lot of confusion. I really needed to read it.
So I know there's a new bill that came in we're going to talk about on the show. Tell us a little bit, though, break down, if you will, just kind of how the government generally defines the difference between what is legal in Alabama in the form of hemp and what is illegal in Alabama unless you've got a prescription, for example.
So the state legislature passed and Governor Ivey signed into law HB 445, all right, and that new legislation will effectuate on July 1st, all right, but it will be in full effect on January 1st of 2026. And basically, that law does not control marijuana. So marijuana has always been illegal. Okay. And this new HB 445 really just is a more strict version of the Hemp Farm Act, which is a federal law. And it basically says that anything that is smokable or inhalable is illegal as far as if it contains THC. Okay. CBD, THC, they are included in this bill. So anything that you take that's going to contain CBD or THC has to be licensed by ABC. It has to be a gummy or topical product, and it has to be limited to 10 milligrams of serving. Oh, it can be a beverage as well. Okay. It has to be limited to 10 milligrams of serving.
How does, and I wonder this sometimes because I see these commercials and ads for hemp products. I mean, what is the difference between what I guess is marketed for, which appears to be legal in Alabama, and what includes THC in it? What's the difference in that? Because I know the government kind of breaks that down, don't they?
Yes. So THC, basically, the cannabis plant can be broken down into hemp and marijuana, right? Mm-hmm. Hemp can be Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10. And the federal law says that anything that is 0.3% THC or greater on a dry weight basis is marijuana. Okay. If it's 0.3% THC or less on a dry weight basis, it's hemp. And so the state basically, this new law basically says that it doesn't matter if it's not licensed by the ABC and or smokable or inhalable, it's illegal.
So this is step number one in, I think, the ABC board getting involved in regulating these products in Alabama. As you know, many other states around us have passed legislation that allows for legal marijuana. And whether that ever happens in Alabama, who knows? But the ABC is now starting to regulate some of this stuff.
And I'm so glad Rob is here because I'm totally confused. I'm like you. I see the commercials. I drive by stores where you can buy CBD and the gummies. How do law enforcement know the difference? Because as you start going through the different levels, I'm wondering if law enforcement officers, they know it to that degree.
Yeah, so if law enforcement officers will tell you, especially in a court proceeding, that they have been trained and due to their practice in law enforcement that they can tell you the difference. The truth of the matter is that only testing can determine how much THC is in a product. If you have something which results in a charge against you and you take this to trial, they're going to send a sample of that off to the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences. But it's my understanding that ADFS does not always have the adequate testing to really determine the difference. So you might need a third-party laboratory to tell you how much THC is, or if any THC is in that product.
How does this play into your criminal practice? Because I can imagine that this adds an entire new complexity. This isn't like a traditional DUI. We've done plenty of shows on DUI where blood alcohol concentration is such a studied and a scientifically based area of the law. This has got to be fairly new, cutting edge, where testing this stuff is even more difficult, that a client could be found not guilty because they had a legal product versus an illegal product.
Well, this new law, again, it makes it a lot more clear about what's going to be legal to possess and what isn't, because if you are at this point in time stopped or found to be in possession of a THC vape or dry bud THC, even if you tell them, well, it's Delta 8 or it's Delta 9, this has always been legal here, it's not anymore. All right, so if you're really going to have to start thinking about what you can have in terms of gummies, beverages, topical products.
I see these. I go to the grocery store and I may go buy something to cook on Sunday night, and I see these racks now of what appear to be marijuana drinks, and they're all over the place. You find them at the regular grocery store that you and I go to on a daily basis. I'm like, how is it possible that this is legal? But apparently this is part of what's being regulated, right?
Yes. And regulated is a good word. Okay. So what this new law really intends to do is make everything that is going to be legally purchased, possessed, to go through the ABC board. Okay. And so, anything that you look to license, sell, the bill covers that. It's a stringent testing analysis that they go through, and so beverages, and it's not marijuana. It's hemp. Okay. All right. So it might contain THC, but it's not marijuana. And gummies, beverages, topical products.
I know we're getting ready to go to break, but when we come back, I want to unwrap a little bit more the new legislation, when it takes effect. And here's a question that I want to pose and have Rob answer after the break. What happens to all of these convenience stores that have all these products in these racks sitting every time you go to a counter? There's all these products, that are now about to be illegal. What do those people do, and how does that get handled, and how long can they sell those things? Let's talk about that when they come back, because this is going to create a mess. Yeah,
so we'll put a pin on that. We've been talking about it. It's HB 445.
Yes.
That's the law we've been talking about, but we've got much more to unpack, including the question that Josh just put in place for us to talk about when we come back. But I want to remind you, you can get in contact with an attorney at Hollis, Wright. All you have to do is call 1-844-LAW-TALK. It's a free, confidential call. You can also follow us on all of the social media platforms, on X, formerly known as Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. Find Hollis Wright there. Great information, great resources. Also kind of check out what we're doing throughout the week. So stay with us. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.
here's some good information from our firm to you. Hollis Wright recently launched the Law Talk podcast. With podcasts becoming so popular, this will be a simple way to provide our loyal viewers with more opportunities to access information about important legal topics and to learn more about our firm and how we can help you if the need ever arises. There are many ways to access the Law Talk podcast. You can simply scan the QR code on your screen. Also, episodes are always available on the Hollis Wright YouTube channel, as well as on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you consume your podcasts. Just search up Hollis Wright in the Law Talk podcast. Don't wait, take advantage and listen today. Thanks for watching The Attorneys, and we know you'll enjoy the Law Talk podcast.
The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you.
When we started the show in 2011, my goal was to do what our firm does best. Help people answer questions related to real-world legal issues they have in their lives in a way that's not intimidating to talk with a lawyer. If the issue is important to you, it's equally important to us, and we're ready to talk with you at no cost.
Yeah, oftentimes people are confronting various legal issues in their lives that really run the gamut of a lot of different legal practice areas, such as bankruptcy, criminal law, civil law, such as personal injury, divorces, domestic relations. And to be able to have a show once a week that covers those practice areas and answers people's questions in those areas, that's really the main objective of the show.
We use the resources of the many lawyers at our law firm to create a plan that has a lasting impact for each person that calls or texts. And we also give back to the community at the same time. We are here to serve you, the viewer, each week on The Attorneys.
Addiction kills hope.
But at Bradford, it all changes here.
Experience the difference
that proven treatment can make.
Find recovery. Find community.
at Bradford.
And welcome back. You are watching The Attorneys, and we're talking about cannabis law in Alabama. We've got a special guest with us. Rob Winslett is with us. And before we went to break, Josh, you wanted to talk about something.
So I see all these convenience stores that have what appears now will be illegal products for sale. They don't seem to be pulled off the shelves. And I'm just wondering, like, what is... I was involved from the ALAJ trial lawyer side in looking at this bill to see if it impact kind of the clients that we represent on the plaintiff's side. So I knew a little bit about this bill as it was going through the process and being amended. And I always thought to myself, well, what's going to happen locally to all these convenience stores that have all this inventory? I mean, is there an answer to that?
Yeah, it's a good question. My reading of this bill indicates that these stores should discontinue the sale of these THC vapes and products as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. I don't see any way that they could continue to sell this in my reading of this bill.
What happens to someone who purchased something before the bill that then gets caught with it? Do they have the ability to be grandfathered in, or are you dealing with that on a daily basis with people coming in?
This bill is going to have a large effect on people in that way. Okay. And what I mean by that is, so you hear a lot about retroactive law. Now, if you were charged with something before this and what it was legally purchased, then before this bill came into effect, then you're fine. Okay. But at this point in time, if you've purchased something, just because you purchased it before HB 445 came into law does not make it legal. You probably should dispose of it, or at least not, leave the house with it.
Yeah, we're also trying to find out, when you think about the penalties for this, and as we're still getting new information about it, how severe are the penalties, Rob?
Yeah, so for licensed sellers who fail to properly label or distribute their products, it's a fine of up to $1,000 for the first offense. All right, direct shipment of prohibited hemp products, and this is kind of unbelievable, to Alabama residents is a Class A misdemeanor on the first offense. It's a fine of up to $6,000, and a term of imprisonment of up to 1 year. It's a Class A misdemeanor. And so, and then the sale or possession of prohibited hemp products is a Class C felony. per this bill, and it carries a fine of up to $15,000 and a term of imprisonment not to exceed 10 years.
So those are significant penalties, and basically it's the state of Alabama saying the ABC is going to regulate this stuff, and you're going to use the ABC to regulate it. If you're going to buy it, bring it into the state, and then sell it. So the net of all of this, from what I'm seeing, is that ABC will now regulate anything that is an edible, which I guess is like a gummy, and anything that is a consumable liquid, like a hemp beer,
a beverage,
or a beverage, and they can only be 10 milligrams per serving. And that's kind of the net, and the ABC is going to regulate that stuff moving forward.
Yes, and if you read the bill, consumable is defined, and again, I can't stress this enough. I've said this many times, but I feel like it's important to stress. Consumable is specifically excludes in this bill smokable or inhalable products, dry bud flower. Yeah. So yes, this bill limits this to the beverages and the gummies at 10 milligrams a serving, and you have to be licensed and registered with the ABC board.
And I'm also thinking about people who travel with the substances, like they're traveling with gummies. Mm-hmm. Can that be a problem for you if you're out traveling?
Yes. So the law there, the way that I would approach this as a criminal defense attorney, that the law here is a lot like the law surrounding alcohol, where if you have something that you purchased legally, it's okay to drink it, but you don't need to be drinking and driving or consuming and driving, and you definitely don't need to have it open in the car. That can lead to search of the car. It is a violation in and of itself, mm-hmm. And so it's best to leave these, if you're traveling with them, it's best to leave them unopened. If it's a pack of gummies, for example, and they're already opened, put them in a duffel bag or something in the trunk of the car, back of the car, somewhere where it's not reachable, and it would be very obvious that it's not reachable.
All right, if I'm a police officer right now, I'm pulling my hair out saying, okay, how am I going to enforce this? If someone, at the side of the road, they give the little blow test, the Alka-Seltzer or whatever that test is, to identify whether someone could be above the legal limit, or they do a field sobriety test and they think they failed the field sobriety test, how do they even test for this? Like if someone has consumed these hemp products, whether it's a gummy, they've consumed the liquid solution or the gummy beers. Yeah, how do they test for that?
That's a great question. I'm really not sure that I have a direct answer. Obviously, anytime that whether it's a DUI combined substance or alcohol or any substance, they can ask you to perform a roadside sobriety test. In terms of finding out just how intoxicated or inebriated you are by THC, I think that's kind of yet to be determined in my practice.
So here's a question that I would wonder. If someone does a field sobriety test, they fail it, they go to the actual jail facility, they blow in the intoxilizer machine, and they register a 0.0, but the officer still believes that they were impaired. Obviously, the law has always allowed that impaired person, based on those facts, if the officer and the DA can prove it at trial, right, that they were impaired, they can be convicted of driving under the influence, right? Here's the question. Can they go to the next step? Can they now do blood tests to determine whether there's THC in your system?
I would say that if they can't now, they probably should. If that's something that they want to continue to prosecute, that would be wise to invest in, because as you said, if I've consumed a THC product and I take a breathalyzer, it's going to give me all zeros. Yeah. So if they don't already have that, and I haven't run across that yet, but if they don't already have that, and they want to continue prosecuting this, it's probably something they should do.
Yeah. I just want to introduce another element. Yeah. If I manage or own a convenience store that sells some of these flower products and things of that nature, should I discontinue using those or selling those, or what should I do at that point?
I think you should discontinue the sale of THC, Delta 8, hemp, CBD immediately. I know we're still in June. Maybe you want to go to the end of July to kind of get rid of your stock. And technically, and I don't know the distinction. The bill says it will come into full effect on January 1st. So maybe, maybe you have until then, but I would really try to get rid of this stuff as quickly as possible.
Anything that's over 10 milligrams and anything that is not in the form of an edible or, like these beers, that's what you would discontinue.
Yes, and I would take it a step further and say, if you don't have yourself a licensed product to sell, licensed by the ABC, then I would discontinue selling.
And I'm sure what we would find out if we dug into this is the convenience stores who already have a liquor license already have an ABC license, and they're being hit by the ABC being notified, you need to be aware of this new bill, here's how we're going to regulate it, etc. When we do come back, I do want to talk just a little bit about Rob's idea of kind of what the future looks like, because I think that this is kind of a step one of allowing Alabama to regulate these products in a positive way that ultimately is going to allow us to expand different types of substances down the road. But I want to get his kind of crystal ball view of it.
We'll do that. If you're looking for information on cannabis law in Alabama, you've come to the right place here on The Attorneys. We're going to take a break right here, but want to remind you there's so many ways to get in contact with Hollis, Wright. You can also scan that QR code on the screen. You can reach an attorney there as well. Stay with us. We'll take a break. We'll continue, in fact, wrap up the discussion when we come back.
Thank you for watching The Attorneys each Sunday night, where we come to your living room to provide free legal advice in a confidential, off-air setting. Unfortunately, with the number of calls, texts, and emails that come in during the show, we can't always get to everything. But know this, Hollis Wright is open all week long. You call us at 844-LAW-TALK and we're going to answer your question for free. Thank you for watching The Attorneys, and we look forward to seeing you and talking to you soon.
If this place could talk, it wouldn't. It would sing and celebrate all of our stories of addiction recovery, victory, and community. This is Bradford Health Services. It all changes here.
And welcome back. You are watching The Attorneys, and we're talking about cannabis law in Alabama. We're getting down toward the end of the show, Josh, but still a few things we need to cover.
Yeah, so one of the things I would just love to ask, since you know a lot about this bill and the new law, and you're in the area of criminal law, what do you prognosticate? What do you see in your crystal ball is the future of regulation of these products moving forward?
So I personally think that the state would have already legalized marijuana if it was going to do so. I don't see this moving forward personally into this grand regulation of marijuana or hemp. If anything, it might even become even more restrictive. That's just based on the history of the state legislature. I do think that if marijuana is re-regulated and reintroduced, or not marijuana, I'm sorry, hemp is kind of reintroduced as it were, I do think that, a lot of small business owners will kind of be up in arms, because a lot of small businesses were affected by this and had to kind of shut down and find something else to do, because a lot of what they are selling, mostly all of what they are selling, is now illegal.
It puts a huge strain on some of these smaller businesses. How do you manage these cases when they come in now? Let's say someone comes in and, they say, look, I thought what I had was a hemp product that was legal. Turns out that it was THC. It's not. I got it from a friend, or I bought it from a convenience store. They told me it was hemp and it was legal, and it's not. Like, how do you even manage that from a criminal perspective?
Right. So, again, the law distinguishes between hemp and marijuana. So it really depends on what they're charged with. If they're charged with a possession of marijuana charge, then again, and the state always has to prove every element of every charge beyond a reasonable doubt. It's their burden. So, if we're talking about what is the substance, we're not really sure. I'll hire an expert. I might see if there's a little bit of the sample left to send off to a third-party laboratory, because again, we're not sure what ADFS testing is going to look like. And so, but also it may be something where there may be an offer on the table if they have a clean past that we could work something out and get them out relatively unscathed.
Let me add a caveat to where Josh was going with that in terms of managing the case. I'm coming in, I need to see you. What can I expect to pay my attorney for a case like this?
Yeah, it really depends on the facts. It depends on that lawyer's level of expertise and experience and the difficulty of your case. Like I said about the facts. So it really just depends. But if you can't afford an attorney, you can always fill out an affidavit of indigency pretty much anywhere you go. And if you qualify, an attorney should be given to you if you cannot afford one.
So, Art, one of the things, being a previous trial lawyer president, I'm on a committee that still evaluates bills that come through the legislature. This obviously was on the radar along with many other bills. The issue for trial lawyers is, as you know, I do a lot of dram shop, alcohol related, and it was what's the interplay between an alcohol related claim and a hemp and or marijuana impairment, and is hemp and impairment going to be impacted in a way that's not consistent with the current ABC regulations? We had to evaluate all that stuff. I don't think it's going to have any impact on the current ABC regulations as it relates to alcohol-related claims, but it's something to watch in the future, because for someone that does a lot of alcohol-related claims for victims that have been injured in automobile accidents and other types of events related to alcohol, it's something that is an ever-changing area of the law for sure.
So I'm wondering if you both think that there'll be more prosecutions now under this new law.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think that this will begin almost a new type of prosecution, because again, this is not marijuana; it's hemp, and it's a different statute. So yes, I do think so.
What do you think the key in on 10 milligrams? I know the legislature with certain drugs and alcohol will regulate a certain percentage of a impairing substance that you can have in it, but what was the key on 10 milligrams? Do you have an idea of that, or is that just where they kind of put their line in the sand?
I think it's kind of just where they decided to draw, which personally I have to say my opinion on it is I think that is a good line in the sand to draw, but I really don't have any insight as to where they landed on 10 milligrams.
This is a fascinating topic, and let me tell you something. We could do this show in 5 years, and we probably will, and it's going to be a totally different area of the law. You watch.
Yes, Rob Winslett, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for being on, man.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. Also, good to have you joining us here on The Attorneys. We love it when you tune in, and make sure you stay in contact with us throughout the week on all of the social media sites. That's where you can find more information about Hollis Wright, get some great resources, find out what's going on throughout the week. We'll see you back here next week, same place, same time, for another episode of The Attorneys.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.